PhotoPills can be extremely overwhelming, confusing, and frustrating, so that's why I put together the tutorial for PhotoPills that I wish I had when I was getting started. When you're using the app to get started, the planner is really the only thing you need to be using. That's only because all of these things that are in the menu when you first turn it on can be used in the planner. You can get to the sun, moon, augmented reality, all those things that we're going to get to in this tutorial. So when I open Planner, you can see that you have your location set. If you're not set to your location, all you have to do is double tap on the location icon. It'll take you right to where you are using GPS. Also, you want to be sure that your time is set correctly. So if I go to the time, just click on the time icon, you can definitely set your time to your time zone, the day of what day it actually is, the time, and all of that. If it's not set to what you are right now, you can just double tap the little clock at the bottom of the screen and it'll take you to what time you have it set based on your time zone that you're in. It's extremely important to get your time and date right because that determines when the sun rises, sunsets, moon, Milky Way. All of your planning revolves around the time, so be sure this is set correctly every single time you're out shooting. Now, if you've noticed while I'm talking, there are lots of different lines on the screen here. You have a light blue line, dark blue line, a yellow line, orange line, and a gray line and a black line. All of these can be overwhelming for sure, but they all have a meaning. The light blue line is where the moon rises. The yellow line is where the sun rises. So you can look at this and say, okay, the sun is rising all the way over here in the east, and it's going to set all the way over here in the west. So the dark blue line and the orange lines are where the sun and moon are setting in the west. There is a smaller line that rotates as you move your graph, which I will get to the graph next. That is the position of the sun based on the time that you have the graph set to. Now, what are those gray and black lines? That is where the Milky Way is actually going to rise and set in the sky on the day that you have set. Since Milky Way photography involves such planning, they've included that in this chart. Now, if you notice, you can move the chart on the bottom to represent where the sun is actually going to be. If I zoom this out just a little bit, I can see that if I zoom to tonight, it's going to be golden hour when the screen starts to turn orange, and that sun is lining up right with the set. Now, right after that, you get to your blue hour and twilight times. Now, once you zoom past that into the night, you get this little arcing dotted line. That is the actual Milky Way of what you'll be able to see it at that point. I'll get to more in the Milky Way in just a second when we start actually planning out a photo so that you can use this to plan out your photos and save it to your device. Now, if you need a more exact time, let's say you want to go all the way over here to sunrise. If I wanted an exact time, I can tap and hold down on this graph and it gets to a much more exact time. So I can scroll over here and say, okay, I want sunrise to be exactly when it lines up. That's going to be at about 6:56 because you see that line coming in on the sunrise that's crossing out blue hour and getting into the sunrise time. Now, you also have a lot of things down at the bottom of your screen, including Find, AR, which is augmented reality, Night AR, Load, and Save. So really, you can load in your own plans, but I've never really used that too much in my own device. But I have saved a lot of plans, which we'll be getting into in just a second too. You also have a lot of charts up top. Now, if I scroll all the way to the left and start at the beginning, you have sun, you have distance from things that you're planning on, which you can use if you're doing like moon photography and you want to get the distances and the exact timing right, which gets pretty mathematical. I just eyeball it in augmented reality. I know that's not the best way to do it, but I'm not great at math. Next, you have the sun, what the elevation is in the sky based on any time that you're scrolling around in the chart, so you can see that those numbers change as I move. Then you have the sun and the moon, so you have the sun rise and set times as well as the moon set and rise times. After that, you have your golden hour, blue hours, and those are represented on the next screen as well. Then you have your Milky Way. So the Milky Way is going to be visible. It gives you your visibility chart at 4:27 a.m. to 5:28 a.m. So based on the day, that will change. Then the next one is how visible the Milky Way core is. Now, we'll get to this in just a second when we start planning something out because I want to plan out a Milky Way photo and save this in my device. Then you get into solar eclipses and meteor showers. Let's get outside and actually start planning something out. So I'm planning out a Milky Way shot here over this pond and into the sky with the trees in the background. I think it's gonna be a really nice place, but I wanna plan this out and make sure I have the date saved so I know exactly when I need to be out here. So I'm gonna scroll the top bar over to the Milky Way core planning, and I'm going to be sure that I have today set, and I'm gonna make this view on the chart a little bit wider just by holding my thumb down on the chart. Now, for the Milky Way, I want to be sure that the core is as big as possible so that I can get a good shot going into the distance and have that big core of the Milky Way visible in the night sky. You can still see the tail of the Milky Way, but honestly, it's not as impressive as the core is. So to get the core, what I'm gonna do is just tap on the Milky Way view itself, and it's saying that the next possible view is going to be at 2/9/24, so February 9th, 2024. Now here's the problem, is that you only get a very short time period and it's getting into that twilight time, so it's not going to be that visible even though there's a new moon in the sky. Now to check on the moon phase, you can quickly scroll over to your moon and see that it is just a black circle on the sun and moon graph, so you know that it's a new moon. Now, I know that in the northern hemisphere, you're not able to really see the Milky Way core until the end of March to about late August. So let's just tap this Milky Way again to see what date it's taking us to. So now it's March 10th. I'm gonna tap it one more time and it's gonna take us to April 8th. Now I know that the Milky Way core is going to be visible in the night sky. So I'm just gonna slide my graph over and you can see that the larger circles come more clear as I'm scrolling into the early morning hours. So I'm at 3:30 in the morning now. Now that I have that Milky Way core in the sky, what I'm gonna tap on the bottom is Night AR. AR stands for augmented reality. If I hit on AR just specifically, it would take me to an augmented reality and I could scroll around and see where the sun is in the sky at any point based on the direction that I'm actually facing. So that would allow me to plan out sunrises and sunsets just on any given day. But since I'm going to do the Milky Way, I want to tap on Night AR. Now, Night AR is going to take me to this completely different look, and it's going to show me where the Milky Way would be in the night sky. So actually, where I am right now is not even going to be in a good composition for the Milky Way. I need to go on the other side of the pond so that everything lines up. As you see, as I point this around, there's a big orange circle in the Milky Way itself that I can move by scrolling the graph down at the bottom, just like you would with the sunrise and moonrise graph on the planner window. As I scroll that around, that lets me know that big orange dot is the actual core. Now this is letting me know what the Milky Way is going to look like. So if I wanted it to be rising right on this other side of the tree that I'm pointing my phone at, I can just change my perspective to get a little bit more this way on the photo and get that Milky Way just on the edge of these tree limbs so that the tree limbs aren't getting into it. Okay, so now that I have my Night AR set up, what I want to do is save this so I don't forget it. So what I'm going to go to at the bottom is save, and I'm going to save this as a plan, and it's going to be a new plan, and I'm going to name this Pond Milky Way, just like that. And it's going to set it to 4/9/24, so April 9th, 2024 at 4:29 a.m. Now I know to get out here that morning and start my plan. So I have my plan saved and it's going to be in my plans. Now I'll show you where that is. If I go back to my main screen, if I go to my stuff and go to plans, now I can see that Pond Milky Way is at the bottom of my plans and I have it right where I need it to be. That's how you use PhotoPills, and this is a great starter's guide for how to get started and using it appropriately to plan out epic photos.